been exponentially worse. And then to the medical professionals who cared for all of the victims and, of course, the deceased. It's a horrible day. No, there's a lot of speculation, but we know that this was, in fact, an American citizen who we believe was from Texas and unbelievably had some kind of military record. And so, and was evidently here for a couple of weeks. So not unlike the assassination attempt in New York sometime. Evidently, this guy had been here for a couple of weeks looking at how to get this done. And he was intent on killing a lot of people, which, of course, he succeeded in doing last night before the law enforcement officers, shot him. So everybody just needs to be vigilant. The Superdome's going to be safe tomorrow night. We do these things all of the time. You understand now because of your reporting that there are nationwide threats. So this was a terrorist attack in an American city. It wasn't just an attack on New Orleans. It was an attack on America herself. And all of us have to be in this fight to make sure that we don't bow down to terrorists. We don't let them stop us from enjoying ourselves. But we have to secure the city, and we have to continue to do this over a long period of time because we have these other major events coming, not the least of which is the Super Bowl, which we've handled many, many, many times.
Mike Crawley joins us now. He has the latest on this attack. Mike, what can you tell us about this incident and the investigation so far?
Okay, Tricia, so the FBI have identified this man, as you said, a 42-year-old U.S. citizen from Texas, also an Army veteran. They've named him as Samsud Din Jabbar. They say that what happened was shortly after 3 a.m., a video showing that the streets of New Orleans were really crowded with folks celebrating the New Year. The suspect drove the truck around a police car, around a barrier, and then onto Bourbon Street, on the sidewalk, plowing through people at a high rate of speed. The police chief said this suspect was trying to run over as many people as possible. We've just got an updated death toll from the coroner in New Orleans saying that 15 people were killed. There are dozens more injured. So after crashing through the crowd, police say Jabbar got out of the truck, shot at police, hit 2 officers. Those officers were taken to hospital. The police say that they will be okay. And the suspect was shot dead. Now, the FBI is leading this investigation as an act of terrorism. They're encouraging people to come forward with any information that they have about Samsud Din Jabbar. We know that at this hour, the FBI says there's a law enforcement activity going on in Houston that is related to the attack in New Orleans. There's an area of Houston cordoned off. They are investigating whether anyone worked with the suspect to place what they believe were improvised explosive devices that were found around the French Quarter. Tricia?
Mike, we know New Orleans is one of those top tourist centers in the U.S., and especially at this time of year with New Year's. What can you tell us about how people are reacting after the attack?
Yeah, the emotions are really high and raw. We heard from witnesses who talked about the carnage that they saw, about how fast the vehicle was going, and about the bodies that they saw lying on the street. We heard from the police chief of New Orleans calling this not just an act of terrorism, but calling it evil. We heard from a Republican senator from Louisiana calling on law enforcement to, in his words, quote, catch these people. Also heard from a Democratic congressman at the news conference. Here's what he had to say.
Let it be clear that the full faith and credit of the United States and every agency therein is on the ground, working. And for those who may have played a role in this horrific act of cowardice, we will find you. We will bring you to justice.
U.S. President Joe Biden has spoken with the mayor of New Orleans and offered federal support, and has, of course, been briefed by his top security officials. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau put out a statement calling the attack horrifying and a senseless act of violence. Now, the Sugar Bowl was to take place in New Orleans today, a major college football event that's been postponed for 24 hours. Officials say that's for public safety reasons. They want to make sure that the location is secure. New Orleans also is due to host the NFL's Super Bowl. That's next month. Tricia?
Mike, thanks for this update. We really appreciate it. That's CBC's Mike Crawley. Now, Kenneth Gray is a retired FBI special agent. He says law enforcement agencies will now have to work to determine if there's any further threat.
The steps that have been taken to ensure the safety of New Orleans and ensure the safety of the Sugar Bowl game, it was absolutely necessary because this is not totally resolved yet. If Jamar was being assisted by others, they would still be out there and could potentially carry on the attack. And so it's very prudent to postpone the game at least one day. It may be prudent to bring in additional resources to ensure the safety of the people attending that game. Right now, they're doing a deep dive into Jamar, looking at his computers, his phone, his social media, interviewing colleagues, interviewing family members, trying to put together a full picture of who Jamar is and what he's all about. So there's a bunch of different moving pieces in this investigation. There's the crime scene itself, and that is being processed there and has been being processed since the attack. There's also the investigation going on in Texas, looking at where the truck came from, where Jamar was at. There's the deep dive into his background. There's a lot of different aspects of this, and the main thing here at this point is trying to identify any associates of him that may have been part of this attack. That's a key component, because if there are members that are still out there that might have been part of this attack, they may be able to be carried additional attacks out. And so you have to identify them quickly and wrap that up. And that's why you don't want to give out too much detail at this point, is to not give up where you are in your investigation, so as to preserve the ability to arrest additional individuals.
And that was retired FBI Special Agent Kenneth Gray. President Joe Biden has responded to the attack in New Orleans. He says, in part, "I have directed my team to ensure every resource is available as federal, state, and local law enforcement work assiduously to get to the bottom of what happened as quickly as possible." He continued, "In the meantime, my heart goes out to the victims and their families who were simply trying to celebrate the holiday. There's no justification for violence of any kind, and we will not tolerate any attack on our nation's communities." And incoming President Donald Trump also reacting to the attack. He says the crime rate in our country is at a level that nobody has ever seen before. "Our hearts are with all of the innocent victims and their loved ones, including the brave officers of the New Orleans Police Department. The Trump administration will fully support the city of New Orleans as they investigate and recover from this act of pure evil." And many of the witnesses to that attack now have to live with the chaos and carnage they saw. One man describes the scene on Bourbon Street and the aftermath of that attack.
So we ducked off into